So I have a problem with 3D animation. It takes time, and in my case, it's not just the struggle of animating and making it look decent. It takes time to render the animation. Let's say I want to make a short film with Blender that's 5 minutes long. That is 300 seconds, which means I have to render 7,200 frames. Now I don't have the best laptop for this, so in my case it can take either 2 or 7 minutes to render one frame. I am currently working on 2 projects that require days to render, and my laptop is going through some torture. And the hardest part for me is that I am not always pleased with the results, and I'm not always committed to redo all the work. So I came up with a solution that could fix that. There are 2 ways to create some good animation. The simple way for a guy like me would be to use motion capture. One animated movie that did this is Tintin. Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson had real actors performing in a studio. The other method we otherwise see, like in Pixar movies, is manual animation by artists.
They have this acting now where you could film yourself and videotape.
Following this method would be even more difficult.
Our audience looks at a human being in the mirror every single day. And if you don't do it just right, it won't be believable to the audience.
Getting these people on screen in a believable, compelling way was sort of job number 1. And then we could deal with like, oh my God, how are we going to do all these explosions and, all these different sets and things like that.
I'm not good at this, and I would still have a problem rendering everything. So, what is the solution I came up with? The controversial method would be to prompt a scene with AI, and there is a fair criticism to it being low effort, but also stealing other people's work. And I don't want to watch or make movies that are just created by prompts. So I was looking for another way to use AI. Take a look at this scene from Shrek 2.
Look out, princess. Here comes the new me.
This shot contains more than 100 frames. If I would make something similar, it would take hours to just render all frames for just a few seconds. And animating all this by hand would also take hours. But what if you only had the first frame and the last frame and let AI generate all the info between? This is called AI Frame Interpolation, a method that could save me hours, but also maybe even animate better looking movements than what I am capable of. I have tried this method before with an unfinished project, a fan-made Boba Fett teaser created with Blender. And with frame interpolation, I managed to get some nice shots. But there is still an issue with this. These are very subtle movements. Can this tool work for intense action shots? So I started with a tiny test. Apparently, I can use multiple images to generate my sequence. So I made a very simple scene that maybe could generate a typical 2D animation. But the result was not that great though. To be fair, I did not put too much effort into this test, which is why it might have generated a bad result. But using 2 frames seems to work well, but if it can create a nice action sequence is the big question. So I got a simple idea of a scene I wanted to create. 2 medieval knights in an intense duel. When I prompted the idea, I got something like this. Just some basic AI slop. But we are going to use my method with Blender. So I downloaded a nice model from Sketchfab and started to create a simple scene to place the knights in. A floor, a cylinder wall, and some sunlight is enough for this small project. And to separate the knights, I just changed the textures of one of the models to a darker metal. I actually wanted to go bigger after seeing this amazing scene from A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. But with a slow laptop and also being unsure about this experiment, I took the safer route. However, one thing I wanted to take from this scene is the shot from the inside of the helmet. At first I tried to place the camera inside the knight's helmet, but it didn't work out as I wanted. Instead, I just created a plate to have in front of the camera. I could definitely put more effort into this. This shot was not done with AI, and to make the animation work, I uploaded the knight to Mixamo and picked some animations. By this method, I would automatically have a rig for the character and could change pose for the shots that would use frame interpolation. So my idea was to mix this scene with normal animation and AI. One issue I had was that the AI shots could turn into a mess. So I had to retry and change how many seconds I wanted to generate. And this would cost credits. But in the end, I got something I could work with. And this is the result. As I mentioned before, some of these shots were a mess. Most of these shots had to be generated more than once to look decent. And sometimes I could just cut them in the right moment. This shot had a better version, but I forgot to change the color on the armor. When I tried to fix this with a new shot, I had to generate this shot multiple times. In the end, I think this can be a useful method, but for the most part, it reminded me how much I appreciate good handmade animation. So next time you're watching one of your favorite animated movies, take a moment and reflect on the hard work behind it.